The president published an op-ed in the Washington Post today, or at least someone representing the administration.
There's no way in
published
hell this guy wrote this.
No one believes he can write an essay.
No.
Absolutely he can't. But the people pulling the strings for the Biden administration did. So the point is, let's get to the point of what those people want, because somebody is leading our country into war. Here's the main pitch. Says both Putin and Hamas are fighting to wipe a neighboring democracy off the map, and both Putin and Hamas hope to collapse broader regional stability and integration and take advantage of the ensuing disorder. America cannot and will not let that happen. For our own national security interests and for the good of the entire world. It gets really tiring to be the world's hero, but that's what we do because the United States, he says, is the essential nation. We rally allies and partners to stand up to aggressors and make progress towards a brighter, more peaceful future. The world looks to us to solve the problems of our time. This is the duty of leadership, and America will lead, for if we walk away from the challenges today, the risk of conflict could spread, and the cost to address them will only rise, and we will not let that happen. Now, this is the most laughable part. Here he says that in Ukraine, we don't even have to do the dying. Like, look, in Ukraine, we're keeping American troops out of the war, he says. We're giving them weapons, we're giving them money, we have NATO, NATO's sending a bunch of shit, right? So that's his pitch for Ukraine. But then let's go down a few more paragraphs to Israel. To Israel, though, yeah, we're going there. So I ordered 2 U.S. carrier groups to the region to enhance deterrence. So, yeah, let's not let that one slide. Okay. He says we're going to go after Hamas and those who finance and facilitate its terrorism. By that, make no mistake, he means Iran. So did President Biden ask Congress to declare war with Iran? Well, he doesn't have to, because remember just a few weeks ago, we talked about how Congress already passed a bill to give him all the power it needs to wage war with Iran. This is U.S. House of Representatives House Resolution 559.
Mike McCall, good old warmonger Mike McCall.
Right, paves the way for war over nuclear weapons with Iran. The resolution declares that it is the U.S. policy that a nuclear Islamic Republic of Iran is not acceptable, and the bill said that the U.S. can use any means necessary to prevent nuclear war with Iran. So are we quite sure, though, that we want a war with Iran? This is Iran's new hypersonic missile. Do you now want a war with Iran? I mean, you know, this was what they're calling rare hypersonic glider technology. It was shown off at a conference over the weekend. But this is for aerospace technology, but still we don't know exactly what they're capable of because Congress is busy lying about it and twisting the words of the IAEA. We've gone over that in depth. So maybe we're scared of that. Maybe we're not. I don't know, right? I personally don't want a war with Iran just for fun.
The U.S. Army's tactical missile system is the gold standard for modern precision strike artillery. When it comes to staying on top, though, what works today won't work tomorrow. So the Army is developing a new long-range weapon called the Precision Strike Missile. Like the ATACMS they are replacing, PRSMs are ground-launched tactical ballistic missiles. The Army says the new missile just marked another major milestone in its development, successfully completing what's called the Minimum Short-Range Qualification Test. It's an exercise designed to push the missile's guidance systems to its limits, forcing the weapon to lock onto its target quickly. Short-range launches also give the missile less space to maneuver. Sharper turns and quick corrections are harder on the missile's components than a smooth flight, so the test also proved PRSM's structural integrity as well. The PRSM shares some similarities to the missile it's replacing, but it marks a significant step forward for the Army's long-range precision fires program. The PRSM's planned range will be between 37 and 403 miles, more than double the effective range of ATACMS. The PRSM can also be fired from the M270 and HIMARS launchers, like ATACMS, but the PRSM pods hold 2 missiles compared to the 1 missile launch pods ATACMS use. Like so many modern weapon systems we've discussed at Straight Arrow, the new PRSM features an open architecture and modular design for easy upgrading. The Army says the initial tranche of PRSMs will be armed with an optimized unitary warhead designed to achieve, quote, the same effects as ATACMS. PRSM also complies with the U.S.'s cluster munitions policies. After some more testing, the Army says it plans to equip the PRSM with what it calls enhanced lethality payloads as well. The missile will also be able to engage targets on land or at sea, a prospect which is piquing the interest of the United States Marine Corps. The Marines are rethinking power projection in the Pacific and are looking at all sorts of ways to put as many missiles on as many islands as possible.
It's day 40 of the war, missiles and tanks in action in Gaza, a narrative war on social media, diplomatic battles at global forums, and protests across the world, mostly pro-Palestinian protests. Even people who saw Israel as a victim on October 7th now see it as the aggressor, and it's understandable. When you see pictures of dead and injured babies, it shakes you. Why must they suffer? And you tend to forget how it all began, how Hamas launched a terror attack on Israel, and how it still holds scores of people hostage. When the attack happened on October 7th, there was sympathy for Israel. But as Israel retaliated, it swiftly turned into anger. The support shifted. People came out to protest for Palestine and against the collective punishment being meted out to them. And this happened across the globe, including in the United States. But yesterday, the US witnessed something new. A march for Israel at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Tens of thousands of people attended. Organizers say some 200,000, but by the looks of it, the numbers could be higher.
We know we again are one fighting family. Family which is so strong, which is has so much love. And you know that there is only one outcome in this battle, our victory.
But not all Americans agree with what Israel is doing. And we've seen dissent at every level. In the US State Department, in the administration, even in the White House. So Joe Biden may say that he has Israel's back, but not all his people are backing him. Take the State Department, for example. It has what many call the internal dissent channel. It was started after the Vietnam War. It allows diplomats to raise concerns, and they remain anonymous. Their concerns are addressed to the Secretary of State. In this case, Antony Blinken. He is the Secretary of State. Apparently, 3 cables have already criticized the US policy. And this was just the official criticism. Reports say the dissenting voices grew so loud that Blinken had to formally address them. So he wrote a letter to his staff. I have a quote from what it says. I also know that some people in the department may disagree with approaches we are taking or have views on what we can do better. We are listening. What you share is informing our policy and our messages. But the rebellion is not limited to the State Department. More than 500 US officials have sent a letter to President Joe Biden. It slams his Israel policy.
But we begin with the signs of progress and the fallout from President Biden's high-stakes summit with Chinese President Xi. The first face-to-face sit-down between the two leaders in more than a year. President Biden emerging from the meeting, describing it as one of the most productive discussions they've had. But then, just moments later, this happened.
After today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that you used earlier this year.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is the guy who runs a country that is a communist country that's based on a form of government totally different than ours.
And that's the reaction from Secretary of State Antony Blinken, appearing to wince a little bit there after you heard President Biden call Xi a dictator in response to a shouted question. ABC News Chief White House Correspondent Mary Bruce is traveling with the president and joins us from San Francisco. Mary, I want to start out, what were kind of the deliverables? What came out of this meeting, and has there been any fallout from President Biden's comments reaffirming that Xi is a dictator?
Yeah, Elizabeth, certainly not something that China was hoping to hear, that's for sure. They have been pushing back pretty strongly against that comment, calling it extremely wrong and irresponsible, though it is something that the president has said before. And, you know, as you heard him there, he was pretty matter of fact about this. Yes, he is a dictator. He is the leader of a communist country. But the White House, you know, while it may not be the ending they were hoping to yesterday's historic day, this historic meeting between President Biden and President Xi, they don't think it's going to derail any of the progress made or undermine any of the strides they were able to achieve here.